Hello, Augies Worldwide. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, here with another episode of Ask Dave. And this one has some questions I'm not going to be real good at answering, but we'll see what we can do. Our question comes from Frank Logalbo at KD9URB, and he asked this question. It says, "Hello, Dave. I really enjoy your videos." Thank you. They're very helpful. Thank you again. "Although I have just received my technician license, I'm already studying for the general exam. Good. And plan to take the amateur extra exam. My standard recommendation for people is that they take their tech and, if possible, the general at the same time. But they make their way to general and then spend a couple years on the air. Talking to people in the general bands, doing FT8, things like that, and then go ahead and get your extra. It will be far more meaningful to you to do it that way. And that accomplishment of getting the extra will be a real point of pride. If you try to go from 0 to extra in one sitting, my experience is that people that do that, who are very good test takers, end up with their amateur license and no practical skill on how to put it to use. If you are in that category, go find a good amateur radio club and get involved with this so that you start over time to pick up the skills. Note I'm recommending 2 years because I think it takes that long for you to really understand the HF bands, the operating techniques, how contests work, how DX works, and so on. So he has some questions. So here are my questions. Could you please list all the websites for learning and practicing Morse code? No, I can't, because I have no idea what they are. I mean, I have some favorites. My favorite software for that is the G4FON. That's Golf 4 Foxtrot Oscar November. If you look for that, you can find software to download. It is, in my mind, the best Morse code tutor written, even though it's ancient software. It is still around and still very useful. There are also some other clubs that are on the air that will actually assign a person to help you learn the Morse code. The key to learning Morse code is the same as the key to doing anything else in life, and that is persistence. You've got to keep at it, keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. You will not learn the Morse code overnight. It can take a long time. It took me a few years to learn the Morse code enough that I could get my novice. So I started kind of, in the early 1970s, and by 1974, 75, I had my novice license. So it's persistence. Keep with it. Now, let's take a look on the internet and see what we can find. Okay, we're going to search for how to learn Morse code. Okay, and we'll find different ways of doing it. Now, there are video courses. For example, here is one here that shows how to learn the Morse code. Is it hard to learn the Morse code? That really depends on you. Okay, a wiki how. Now let's get down to this. There's learnmorsecode.com. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Okay, this is a fairly classic method that's put up by the Carbon County Club. I wonder if that's in Utah. But it has you try to memorize this great big tree here. That looks a little complicated for me. Learn Morse code info, how to learn Morse code. And this is a blog, and it's got all kinds of tips here. Tip number 2, it's got, oh boy, that's an ancient method right there. Okay, use your own voice, have fun. It's often most helpful if you've got a person that you can practice with. Okay, learn with Google. Let's see, Hackaday, learn Morse code. Strategies to learn Morse code. 5 of the best websites to learn Morse code for free. 9 sites to use. Okay. Morse code course from Amazon that you'd have to pay for. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. There are many, many different ones. There is with stories, learn the Morse code in 20 lessons. Now, let's take a look at this one, arrl.org, okay? This talks about learning Morse code. Remember, Morse code's not required for a ham radio license. So here are some training aids, Morse code online references, code practice audio files. The W1AW actually transmits on ham radio frequencies, code practice. Now, here are my favorites. The G4FON Morse Code Training Program. Okay, this is a piece of software you download to your PC. But they've got others here. This one right here I want to give special mention to. I met one of their people at Dayton, I think 3 years ago. It's called the CW Academy, cwops.org/CW Academy. Okay, and what they do is that they will actually assign you a tutor, and you can work with them at your own rate, but they do expect you to work to learn this here. Okay, let's go take a look at the G4FON training program. Okay, note that this is a very old thing here. G4FON is now a silent key, but his program lives on, okay, with various versions of it. But this talks about ways of learning the Morse code. I like the G4FON. I think I have it on my computer. Oh, it's just recording a window. I can't take a look at that. Okay. So you just download this software right here. Let's take the version 9. Okay, Morse Trainer. This shows you how to use it. It can send to you the actual character speed. I'd go for 15 initially. And then the effective code speed, 4, 8, 13, 17, and so on. With the straight key, you can have the thing put in a chirp. You can have it add interference. You can dither the speed. Again, this makes it more human. Pitch dither and variable weight. And the signal strength against the background and how much the noise level is. QSB means fading. You can have it put it in there. How much time you'd like to do it before it stops, and you can check. It will print out here what it sent afterwards, and you can compare this to what you wrote down. In my mind, this is the best because you can actually go in and change it so that it starts by sending to you just 2 different letters, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then 6, and so on, so that you reinforce what you've learned, and you can expand that out to the point that it has, you've got the setup right here, which will tell you what to do. Okay, and then finish just closes it. It can keep statistics for you also if you wish. The display delay is how long after it's sent you want the display to come up with it. The pitch is normally 700. I would go with 700 hertz. And how many different characters? And you can bring that down to a number of characters, and there's a setup machine in here. 26 if you just want the letters, but you're going to have to learn the numbers and some what are called prosigns also. Okay, so this gives us a very nice overview of what is available on the web. So in that, what we showed is various ways on the internet that you can learn Morse code. I like the G4FON software because it's so versatile. It can take you from 0 to being a CW expert. I mean, it really covers all the cases. You'll start out simple, and you'll get more complicated as you go. Now, remember, there's no Morse code test. You don't have to worry about that. But getting on the air, you'd like to get up to about 5 words a minute before you try it. And you go on the 40-meter band. About 7110 is about the right area to do that practice with other people. By the way, there's no faster way to get your code speed up than to work other people on the air, because it really makes you think. You don't have a screen you can look at afterwards. You're actually talking to somebody. And by the way, if you get totally flustered and quit, nobody cares. Just try it again. Persistence, persistence, persistence. Let's see. And lastly, what documentation is necessary or best practice to have in your ham shack? Well, the very first thing you should have in your ham shack is your owner's manual. Okay, something that's handy that you can read. Now, what I did, there's 2 owner's manuals for the ICOM 7300. There's the short one that comes with it, and then there's the long version, which is explicit on every function and feature that we have. We just lost the light up there. Okay, so I printed this out on a color printer, and then I took it down to Office Depot to have bound. Okay, other documentation that you'll want your license manual, because you're used to finding information in it. You can buy books from the ARRL depending on how far you are along in your learning journey. They have books about basic radio. You can also buy the Radio Amateur's Handbook, which is not a basic book about basic radio. It's much more advanced than that. I would start with some of those basic books. And so with that, and of course, I keep a little notebook with ham radio stuff, and I've got the very first thing in it is the frequency chart, okay, so that you can see what frequencies you're allowed to use. And I also can keep maybe a list of my local repeaters and stuff like that. You don't need a lot of documentation to start. Now, the last question he has is, what's my favorite for logging? I log often just on paper. This is just a cheap little school notebook, and I log on that. I've got a stamp, which you can see here. I've got on my blog, I've got a nice JPEG of this stamp if you want to have it made, but it acts as a little form for keeping track of what you've logged. My favorite logging software is N3FJP. So if you look at that's November 3, foxtrotjulietpapa.com. He has a variety of logging programs, but they all work together. The main one is All Contact Log, and that's your center. And then he has contest software. Now you can pay him for the suite, which is not very expensive, it's about $50, or you can just buy one at a time. And they do link together. For example, if you get the field day logging software, it will hook into your all contact log, and so on. So I hope that answers your questions. Thank you very much for your question. Don't forget that we have a giveaway every month. Go to dcasler.com/giveaway to look for that. And be sure to check out Patreon at patreon.com/KE0OG. Until we next meet, 73.